Audacity fit me, my mindset, most of my younger life prior to making some decisions that went against the will of God, right? So Audacity is overconfidence, arrogance, a little narcissism, just a winner, right? And so sometimes one of the things I learned along the way is one of the worst things that happened to a man is a person is to win the wrong way. God gave me an opportunity to do something different that I've always done, just without the agenda, the arrogance, or the audacity.
Welcome back to How the F Is This a Podcast. Today's guest is someone whose story is bold, raw, and powerful. Edward Goode II is the author of Audacity, fueled by invincible ignorance to win. He's been through the rise and the fall and the rebuild, and he's here to talk about what it means to transform pain into purpose. We'll be diving into his journey from federal prison to personal redemption and the bigger conversations around the justice system, identity, and what it means to reclaim your life. Everybody, welcome Mr. Goode.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're really happy you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We want to start by jumping into your book, and let's start off by just talking about the title. What inspired you to name it Audacity?
Well, there are several titles came to mind, but Audacity fit me, my mindset, most of my younger life prior to making some decisions that went against the will of God, right? So Audacity is overconfidence, arrogance, a little narcissism, just a winner, right? And so sometimes one of the things I learned along the way is one of the worst things that happened to a man is a person is to win the wrong way. It becomes a way of life. And so that, I was allowed to do some things from an early age that I wouldn't have accountable to, because I bought some things that people could benefit from.
Yeah.
Sports and, Department of Corrections career. And I had the audacity to do things that others wouldn't do to get the job done. So,
yeah.
That's awesome. So I've had the pleasure to kind of dive into your book as well as come to your book signing that you had. So I know in your book you talk about the sports that you engaged in and, being a part of the Department of Correction. Can you share a little bit more about those experiences, how it shaped you today?
Well, from an athletic standpoint, I can go back to 8 years old. Like, God put me in a position to just be the guy or one of the guys. I would never say I'm always the guy. I'm the man, but no, amongst many men. And those that were ahead of me respected me because of, just having the confidence to play them football, basketball, run track, and, fight, or talk to girls and all those type of things. And so just those gifts. And so, I was able to propel them athletically. It got me to Virginia State University on football scholarship.
Trojans?
Yes, absolutely. And, it was tough then because I was always the guy becoming Virginia State, you were grown men. And so you have to learn. But I was also always given the opportunity. I was able to be articulate and had a personality that was, liked by many. And I had a commitment to the game. And so I was elevated at Virginia State University. I came in, I wasn't even on full scholarship and half scholarship, just very talented. And so came and earned a full scholarship, started 3 years, captain of the program. It really was one of the faces of the program. And here again, that audacity, that confidence, I'm back at it again. And when you're young, you don't really understand the framework and the mindset that's happening internally.
Yeah.
I could present, but God knows your heart. But on the inside, I was a whole mess. I'm supposed to be, this is my doing. And God's like, God will allow you to do some things for a long time.
Yeah.
Until
He don't.
He doesn't. It's like having that imposter syndrome that we talked about before. It's like we do things that we know is not really us, to fit in for whatever, for people, for society, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a great career at Virginia State, had a great college experience, just a good time, man. And I was so blessed to have that. But I went on to law enforcement, didn't want to go back home to Washington, Maryland, PG County. wanted to do it on my own and got a job in the police department. But man, that mindset went with me. But even still, I was still put in positions to be successful.
Yeah.
And still did a lot of things my way.
Can I ask something about that, right? So you're saying that when you're talking about that mindset, you're speaking about the I'm the man
Yes.
type thing.
Yes.
And you're putting in these positions to reinforce
Absolutely.
what you already believe about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
and I would make some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They were brushed under the rug. It's funny. Morris Jones was my rest in peace. He was my criminal justice dean at the time.
Yeah.
Along with I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, but anyway, he was a lieutenant at Petersburg Police Department. So you see what I'm saying? God aligned some things up from Virginia State, teaching me in a class, took a liking to me. And here I am. I need a job, and said, "We're coming over to the police department." Interview, and I came in with this aura. You know, that not many blacks at that time came with that type of energy.
Yeah.
And here it goes again. And here I am, you know, put in certain positions. Remember the first inaugural bike squad, but Petersburg was the first police department in Virginia that had the bike squad. You know, see people on bicycles.
Yeah.
I was there, front line again, you know, so it just went on and I elevated throughout my career from police to corrections. In Department of Corrections, I was promoted every 2 years on from sergeant to lieutenant to captain to unit manager.
Yes. And let me ask you, is that not typical to educate us? Because I'm not, is it typical that you promoted that fast?
It's
Yeah. Okay.
It's not. That's why when things happen, I was like, God, you know, you something else. You know, this was designed. And so I did a lot. I was committed. I did a lot of the right things, but I did some wrong things along the way because I was able to. You know, being in human services now, the mental health side, I regret some of the ways I dealt with men back then. But it was different in the 90s. It was barbaric school. You know, it was tough. Everything was mostly hand-to-hand combat. Mental health was not on the forefront.
Right.
And now that I've been, you know, had a chance to work in human services, I regret it, man. There's a lot of men we could have saved along the way that I abused. And others abused, you know, whether it was physical or mental, but at the time, physical is what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and so you couldn't work in certain areas of the prison if you couldn't handle yourself physically. And here I am again, God give me these gifts, I'm able to do that and elevate because others couldn't. You know, so that was part of the journey there.
So at what point did life take a turn for you?
Well, Governor Warner came in, and some of this is in the book, and he downsized. It was a budget cut, and I was a unit manager at Greensville. I never forget it. And my arrogance wouldn't allow me to take the position cut. By me being one of the younger unit managers, they went by seniority. And by the time they got to me, I had to take a sergeant position. Now I'm wearing shirt ties every day, and you want me to go back to be a sergeant at a prison at Sussex One State Prison that I opened as a captain. So my mindset wasn't mature enough to relegate those emotions. I built this prison. You want me to come back as a sergeant? They didn't take our pay. Everybody that took the budget cut got their position back in 2 years. I don't need y'all. I'm gone. I left about 9 years of DOC work and an exemplary work record, and left and ended up getting picked up by applied for BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and got the job. Here's the sad part, that I was promoted in the Bureau of Prisons within my 3rd year to a professional position.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I was supposed to not give that there's a probationary period, and they said I couldn't work, right? Because I had a bunch of use of force allegations during the DOC time. They were all unfounded, but this is the federal government, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know at the time that's the way it was back then. All unfounded, but you know, I had like 26 use of force, and they like, man, this man a madman. And it wasn't the case, you know, it wasn't like that. And so I met a warden in the prison at the time, and to introduce myself to her, level the playing field, gave her my resume, and she happened to be from Washington, D.C. So we started talking. She was a warden. We started talking, and we were from similar areas, developed a relationship. God's still working and put me in this position with this lady in this space. And I told her about the situation. I said, well, I'm applying for this case manager job. Here's my resume. I said, because I'm trying to level the playing field. Like, I'm not supposed to be an officer, right? I'm not, right? End up getting promoted, and along the way, prior to that time, I involved myself with some things that were against the law, but within inside of the prison, it's detailed in the book. There were some contraband issues. I allowed a lot of things to happen, turned my head to a lot of things, illegal activities, and participated also as well as outside.
Yeah.
Just doing what I wanted to do, and then God showed up.
One, I want to say that is very courageous and vulnerable for you to even share that part here, also publicly, right? Because we have this idea or these expectations of enforcement, police things like that. And yet people still make mistakes. They still can be in the wrong, and you were able to find a way to use that. Now you talked about when you were going through that journey. What were some of those key lessons just up until this point before we talk about when God showed up? What were some key lessons when you think back that you learned?
Well, first, the most impactful lesson for me was when you're a spiritual person and God talks to you, and you better listen.
Yeah.
Right. And so I remember those moments, and it's tough because they're very emotional, and it really showed up. And I was too far deep into myself to even listen to God. And I could see him like, man, boy, you crazy. I'm talking to you, and he would speak to me, and he would say certain things, and I was just, it's about me. I'm God, right? We are in the likeness of him, but we are not the God, right? But I was, because I involved myself in so many different things inside and outside that I was just allowed to do. And so that's one key. The other key is a lesson learned, a part of the journey, is that when you're blessed, man, you got to honor that. Yeah. You can't play with that. Like, you have to value those opportunities and value people. And so it's funny because outwardly I was always a good person. My mother and father raised me the right way. I came up in a neighborhood where you had to earn your stripes. You did what I'm saying? And so was nothing given to me, but when you gotta honor the blessings. Yeah. Right? You can't just talk it, you gotta live it, right? It also has to be on the inside as well, in your heart, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And it probably was hard for you to honor those blessings at the time because, like you said, like I had the audacity.
I was going to say the same thing.
I feel like I'm above.
Yeah.
Everything.
So it's like I'm going to walk into this space. I'm going to get this. I'm sorry. I'm going to walk into this space. I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to speak to this person. I'm going to get this thing. So at those times, it is hard to see God.
The blessings that God does.
Yeah.
It is, especially when it goes back to childhood. Like I'm talking about 4th and 5th grade, walking in, and you recognize, you have field day, and I can remember.
You play sports, you said? You was good.
Field day, you come like, man, you big Eddie.
Yeah.
And he kicked the ball.
Right.
And so you get to walking around like that, right? So it's like, man, I had to be the biggest fool.
Yeah.
And when you walk on a campus like Virginia State, man, and you recognize, you think that this is the world. You think that you
nothing else in Petersburg, Virginia. Y'all close knit. I mean, look how we went to state at different time periods, but I could speak from being at Virginia State too, and just like how close the community is because we don't have anything else outside of the community. So you get hype. Join these organizations or be a part of the football team, and you just start playing. Everybody gives you, all these accolades, and people eat that up.
Of course.
And then life happens after college, and then they forget really who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
But how does God show up when we are full of ourselves? When do we allow God's to show up?
Well, my opinion, he makes a fool of you. That's how he shows up. And so now you get the lesson, but it's going to take some reflection from that, though.
And it's you're spot on. And I'll take it a step further. He downsizes us, and not everybody's able to overcome that.
Yeah,
he pick and chooses
who,
because he could just this is it. Let's go home. That's it for you. He knows who's going to work his will in the world and on people. And so it's I encourage people, you don't have to go through that. Like, because everybody doesn't recover from that, man. And so even understanding that blessing is just amazing for me to be able to be in this space with you all after things that I've endured, and to have the book written by CEO Publishing, and be recognized and have that opportunity. That's God. Because you know what, I wasn't gonna make it about me. I'm afraid to talk about me.
So your language has changed since. Well, let's go back, because we did, and thank you for the lessons that you shared with us and also to the listeners. But you said that then God showed up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when God showed up for you.
I was suspended. I was placed under investigation, and it's funny. I was placed under investigation so many times in my career for not illegal activities, but wrong. Of how I handle situations. Here again, I'm the guy. Like, if there's a problem at work where they can't get by, I'm gonna take care of it. I'm going in the cell, and not because I was the biggest or the baddest, but I also had the ability to talk to guys that were broken and empty, and give them some hope, and have some things subside. So, God showed up, and I went through the legal situation, and I mean, when he showed up, it wasn't a quick process. It was slow. It was like, I'm gonna tear you down. Every root that I built in you, because he knew that just slap me on the hand, as he's done so many years before.
That wouldn't do nothing.
And God said, I'm gonna break your whole back. Right? And he did. And I mean literally. And some of the audacity that I lived with was part of the reason I was able to overcome. Right? Because I just refused to let you look at me and forget who I was, right? But I'm not presenting myself in that way, but I'm gonna show up, right? And so it was a time when I was in federal prison. I was placed in the hole for the last 4 months of my time, which is, the hole is a shoe, a special housing unit for nothing. For nothing. I did nothing but survive in prison, right? And not many people with my background going to federal prison. First, he shipped me 9 hours away from home in Estelle, South Carolina. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to be within 40 miles of your home. I was shipped right to South Carolina. Number one, I didn't cooperate. I took my beef. I didn't tell anybody else. I could have. I didn't have to go to prison. But I wasn't made like that. You know what I mean? And I couldn't fathom destroying your life to save mine, right? And so accountability, which was another test by God, right? And there's opportunity for you to get out of this if you want. And so I was in special housing, I was placed under investigation, and I lost myself during that time. I mean, really lost myself. I couldn't talk to my son. I ain't done this in a while. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It must be that time of day. But, my son was the love of my life. And one day we talked to him. When I was in prison, I talked to him, 3 or 4 days a week. And I was out, I still parented, things of that nature. And during that time thank you, man. I'm sorry.
No.
During that time, I was able to, God just he said, my arrogance started to show up again while I was in prison, because I survived, right? And, with men, you can put us anywhere in the world, we're going to come up from there, right? You got to come up the right way. And so I think that, I know that God put me inside of the prison, a prison inside of the prison, to make sure that you got it right. You know what I mean? Because I really became, I'm a strong believer, wherever your feet plant, you come up from there, right? I'm not doing no folding, I'm not doing no crying, I'm not doing that, you know what I mean? So, and that's another gift that God gave me. So I was in the hole, and, like the 4th day in there, I had thoughts of suicide. I had thoughts a lot of things. And then God just showed up. He said, do you hear me now? When I tell you that thing broke me, oh my goodness, man. And so that's why I would get emotional now, because to be able to overcome that was just so impactful for me, and I saw him. I saw him. I felt him. I heard him. And it was like, have you had enough? Have you had enough? And that's how tough and thick I was as a person. You know what I mean? And so I I didn't sleep for like 2 days, I think it was. I didn't eat for 3 days. I couldn't eat. I mean, I could barely drink water, right? And after that changed my life.
Yeah.
At that moment, that was like transformation for me because I understood. He's like, boy, you still think you fly. You know what I mean? You still internally, you inside this belly of the beast, and you still walk around like you like that, right? And not outwardly, because you gotta respect where you are.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on.
You gotta respect where you are. And so I wasn't trying to run my time up and then all that kind of stuff. And I was in a decent spot, wasn't like that, but it's still prison. But a lot of things went on there, So that was transformation for me. And I was able to gather myself at that time, and that cell that I was in for the last 4 months became church, conversation with my son, the gym. I started to manifest my life coming home and what I wanted to do, just a lot. So that was gosh.
My heart is like this.
What? See the super emotion.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Impactful story for sure. So how has life being starting as an officer and having all these positions, working in jails, building jails, and now you're locked up in a prison? How has that changed your perspective of life today?
Humility, grace for people. Just life overall, man. It just slowed me down in so many ways. And I think one of the most, if not the best gift we have as people is to inspire, to give back to others.
Sorry, no, it's not.
Is to give back to others. And I've always been that person, but I always had an agenda fully at the end of it. It benefited me. And there were certain situations I knew I could benefit, and I would slide on in there and do what I need to do to make person shine, make situation shine, if I could benefit it. And now, so you go from making, I was making about $80,000 a year back then to inside prison making 57 cents an hour. And dude's mad. Because I'm making 50 cents. That's like top pay, right? I got.
So you still.
Probably making like, what, 15 cents or something like that, right?
27.
But you still making more.
Still winning, right? And then that happened because one of the guys that worked in the rec, I was a rec clerk, was in training with me. How imagine that? He was in Glencoe, Georgia, in training with me. And here I am. When I saw the dude, he broke down and cried and walked away.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you talk about being on the inside, man, that was just devastating for me, man. Like I felt like the biggest coward in the world because even in training, I believe most of my fellow peers and that were in training, it was their first time working in corrections. I had already been in 10 years and as a police officer, so you can imagine how it was for me in the classroom. Like I knew everything, not literally, but I had a lot of insight on things. So making 57 cents an hour. So you talk about the impact. For me, that was embarrassing. It was very difficult. All part of his plan. All part of God's plan. To take that arrogance out of me and that person that allowed me to become to this demise in my life. And so it was a moment that when I was in a shoot, every Friday, and I knew this. I worked in a shoot. And I'm like, okay, Friday would come around, make rounds. The warden would come around. They would always have a visitor or they would do inspections. And they would come by my cell every Friday to stop and just look at me. And they would stay there and look at me like I was a caged animal. I was a spectacle, right? And that was so hurtful for me.
Yeah.
But every time they came by, I would sit back in my cell, I'm looking, I wouldn't blink. But when they left by, I would put the blankets on my head, I would cry. I would be so angry and man, like, I can't believe I put myself in this situation
Yeah.
because every Friday for 4 months, 48 months, every same thing. Again, what can you extract from that? You know, that's the thing. What do I need to learn from this? I was like, why are they doing this? Like, why am I even in this situation? And it was just a part of the design because he had other plans for me, and he wanted me to be able to receive it and deal with it the way he wanted me to deal with it.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna we're gonna move, but it's like in so many plans, right? When I think about how much God loves you, even in your moments, even in your I'm not listening to you, that he had to take you 9 hours away, which is not supposed to be done. That he also had to put you you're in the cell like by yourself, right? So you can hear him.
Yeah.
And then for you to come out, write this, come out, meet people that can help you.
Right.
Share your story.
Absolutely.
And he is still doing these things.
Yeah.
Despite rising societal stressors, it's possible to take care of your well-being. Levels Mental Health provides compassionate care for those experiencing mental health challenges. Our holistic approach addresses anxiety, depression, behavior issues, and trauma, ensuring individuals feel understood. It's time for accessible mental health services for all. Visit levelsmentalhealth.com to learn more, schedule a consultation, or donate to expand outreach and support our community.
So how has your faith changed, like prior to being in prison to being in prison and now? Like, has it been a shift in good spiritual awareness and faith?
I fear God.
Mm.
I ain't fearing it first.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
No, because I'm like, that's
No, so when you were
I
in
get
prison,
that.
were you like into the Bible more? What were you?
No,
Oh.
I was. You know, it was like levels when I first got there. I was so angry.
yeah.
I was bitter for like two months.
Yeah. How long were you there? Because we didn't share with the listeners. Okay, for 1 year.
A
Okay.
year. You know, it's a year, but it's like
A year's a long time.
I was incarcerated a year before I went in,
Mm.
going through the process.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was incarcerated years after I was released, mentally and emotionally
Mm.
broken. You know what I mean? So I'm afraid of God. I'm afraid of Him, and I respect Him, and that's it, man. It's no way. When I think back on the things that I did and allowed, you know, coming from the type of mother that I came from, a praying mother, playing for some amazing coaches and people along the way that were awesome mentors. You know, I was just disrespectful and just wrong, right? And so you talk about being in that environment, and God had me the whole time because I met some great men. I was able to, even in that belly of the beast, I led other men. You know, I would get up in the morning because it looked like to others that I had been doing time a long time because I worked for 17 years. So I knew what to expect and give myself, but it's nothing like being in or you can't leave, right? And so I used to get up and count clear at 5. I was on a record at 5:30 by myself. I would run 5-6 miles. I would work out pull-ups, push-ups. I mean, this is the first week I got in. Like I'm ready. I'm locked in, right? And then other guys start showing up in the morning, and I'm like, and myself like, man, I don't want to be with y'all guys, man. And so they start calling me top suits. Like, so I'm trying just to work with you in the morning. I'm like, man, I don't want to be hanging. I'm not down like that.
Hey, hold on. Do you know who I am now?
But that was a part of the in denial part though.
Yeah.
You know, of like I'm here. Like
Yeah,
I really have to do this.
Yeah,
Right now, so.
yeah, man. Acceptance, man, and I end up, you know, just being a big brother to a lot of guys. I end up, you know, teaching some GED English to some guys in there along the way. Just a lot of things, man. I'm like, man, God, you still put me in positions to win.
Yeah.
And so I remember those things along the way.
So then when you was released, that's when you started human services, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but you previously wanted to do human services while you were still an officer, but for whatever reason.
Yeah. You know,
Why didn't that happen then?
well, the case jumped out, and I was working in group homes, things of that nature, and had some opportunities to some ownership and things of that. But yeah, just went left.
Oh well.
Just went back.
So then you jump back in and you was service.
Yeah, the door opened for me, man. There's a lady that I'm gonna call her name, Tara George. She's an amazing person. I call her boss lady. She owns her own human service program, ALS, and I'll never forget it. I put forward. I said, man, let me just go for an interview and see what happens.
Yeah.
And she hired me, and I cried because I'm like, man. And I said, I kept saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And she was like, no, you're good. And so, like, man, God, you know what? You something else, man. You know, I just first interview, I come out and then get this job in that field. But I had interviewed for several jobs before that. And I was at my wit's end. Because I'm going to interviews and I'm like, look, I'm answering the 10 questions they got in the first 2.
Right.
Right? Department of Social Services, several positions there, other areas, probation. I'm like, man, I'm your best candidate. I know what's happening.
Right.
I'm gonna appreciate these little pennies that you're paying me, right? And it didn't matter about the pay. I didn't count the cost. I want the opportunity. And so I'm talking about maybe 16 professional jobs that I went for. And I started saying to myself, man, am I supposed to even be working in the professional? Do I need to be laying bricks, construction? Like, what's happening right here? And that happened. And so, God again said, no, I'm not going to let you come out here and just get a job. Yeah. Because you're too fly. I'm going to go ahead and let you interview and be turned down. Man, I remember, man, I was hired out of an interview for social services position. And the lady was just amazed at who it was. And it said a book in one of the chapters. And I didn't hear from anybody. I'm like, man, I made it. I'm like, I'm so happy, the interview, everything just was aligned. And then I didn't hear from anybody. The lady called, so I called. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? Say this follow up on the interview. She said, Mr. Goode, I'm so sorry. And my heart just dropped. I'm like, here we are again. I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, then I got angry. Like, why didn't you pick up the phone and call? Well, those are some of the moments I remember, now being in a position to hire others. Like, man, we got to take care of people. Yeah, we got to give people a chance.
I can definitely relate to you on that. Well, as far as like getting charges and going out for your first job after you get that charge, I talked about it in one of my episodes that we had. But I caught 2 felonies right after I graduated college. Received my bachelor's in Petersburg. Got 2 felonies. So felony for conspiracy, embezzlement, and embezzlement. Now I didn't sell any of that. I was working at a job. One of my friends wound up saying, I didn't know about it. It was my last day of work. Whole thing got put on me. Needless to say, I remember going to my first job interview right after that. Because for the 4 months, I was losing jobs. But I remember once I went to my final court case and they told me I had to do weekends and they, dropped one charge. One was lowered to a misdemeanor. And I went to mental health. I wasn't in the mental health field at all. At this point, I went on to a mental health interview, and I was so embarrassed about my story. And I remember my supervisor, my supervisor, she was like, yeah, so tell me, about your charges. So I told her about my charges. I'm like, I'm not about to get this job. Right. Even though I can't read. These charges like 3 weeks old. They fresh. It was like, this boy out here stealing, doing this, etc. But her response to me was so just dope. It was welcoming because she was just like, you know what, like I got a pass too and I have charges too. It's all right. I'm not gonna judge you off of that. You seem like a good candidate and I'm gonna give you the job. And we worked together for 7+ years. We still currently do coordinate work together, but she was the person that really helped me with everything that I'm doing with them mental health. So that's dope. It's important, to give people those chances, even when
they may not seem like they always did the right thing, you know.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. So.
Yeah, God, thank you for your mercy
Absolutely.
and your favor, God.
Grace.
And so what I'm hearing for both of y'all, and you can tap in too, since you were incarcerated at one point or you got charges.
They're good, buddy.
We didn't talk about that on the podcast yet. Mind your business. Now, see, he bringing private conversation to the podcast.
Right.
So, what advice would you give to someone re-entering the community after being incarcerated?
What or how much? But I think that
List them out. We got time.
Yeah, I think one of the most important thought processes you have to have is, what are your passions, right? What do you enjoy doing, and go after that. I don't care what the situation is. You may have to do some other things.
Yeah.
Like I worked 3 jobs until I got to RBHA, and like literally 3 jobs for years, and coached, and the everyday dad, and going to the schools and picking them up. Like if you want to win, man, you got to have a winning mindset, right? Like you got to have a winning attitude. Like when you wake up, you got to make a choice, because that's the one thing that we have control over is our attitudes.
Yeah.
And our folks, and I teach it to the young people today. Like, man, you got to get hard, man. Like you got to really want it, and so it's a sacrifice. And anything that we want to reach to be successful, it's painful. It's painful, you know what I mean? And so what happens is we have these passions, and we have our plans, and then we go outside, and then others, insert their logic, and we start to change our logic on it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? Stick to your plan. And my story is real. Right? My book is authentic. It's real life. It's not a game, but it's a curriculum in the book that you can follow of what steps I literally took every day to become the person I am today.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one piece. And the one thing that I'm sure that you both can attest to is that, man, you just can't quit.
Yeah.
I was given several opportunities to quit in prison, in that hole. Like I literally thought about, man, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm broken. Literally made the noose. And so I remember those moments. And so you can't quit, because it's coming, right? Opportunity is coming, man, and it's just not going to be at your time. And so when it comes, you're not even going to realize it. You're going to look at it like, man, I made it.
Yeah.
I made it. So
That's so beautiful. No, that really is beautiful.
You singing.
I was just
What spoke to you?
So, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I work with I support clients too. I don't really see clients like that. I just started, and yesterday I believe I saw a client that was going to gross recovery home, and he was, as we were driving together. And here's the thing. I don't like being in cars with people by myself that I don't know.
right.
And Greg was like, you need to take him so that you can have a conversation with him. And I'm so glad I did. And as we were talking, he was sharing how he wants to open a barber shop where he wants to become a barber, because he feels like it would be a good idea for barbers to go into the recovery centers and cut people's hair, to lift them up. And I mean, it was life-giving, this ride with him when I was with him. And so hearing you in your redemption, hearing about the time when you were in a dark place, hearing how you actually planned your suicide, thought about it, and you are still here, is just remarkable. And we're both really grateful that you're here and sharing the truth with us.
Yeah, pray.
So that's what came up for me.
Thanks for sharing. So how do you feel like society treats you? Is there a difference how people in society have treated you prior to being in prison and after?
That's a good question. I didn't treat myself well.
Mm.
And so I said something to the podcast, my man, his brother's podcast. I said, we got to teach people how to respect us.
Mm.
Yeah, right. And, he might have thought I'm just saying to say it, but I meant it. Like, we're talking about the mics. And
Yeah.
you have to teach people how to respect us. And how do you do that when you're broken? You show up. You're still who you are, right? You got a few scars on your face. And so life is going to judge us black men deeper than any other man in this world. Right? And that's why I tell people all the time, I tell my son all the time, don't give people the keys to your life, man.
Yeah.
Keep the keys, because everybody can't be a Dr. Marcel. Everybody can't be me to overcome from that. Don't have that wherewithal, the bandwidth, the strength to overcome from that. And they succumb to the world. So, I have my moments. I can share, we have time to share a moment where I done my time. I didn't have a fine. I'm off probation. I went back to coaching. And, you have to get your fingerprint and all that kind of stuff to get to coach because of certain obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And my son was playing. I couldn't wait. I'm so excited. I'm back. I miss coaching. And I do what I needed to go down to Chesapeake County and fill in paperwork and fingerprint cards. They come back and said, man, they want you to sit out a year. For what? I don't have a burying crime. I told on myself. I was self-accountable. I've gone through all these things. And you tell me I can't coach. And it's a chapter in the book. And that's, again, a part of the process.
Yeah.
And so you talk about how the world treats you. They treat you crappy when they can. But we can't embrace that crappy energy, right? We can't embrace that. And so what I did is that's okay. Man, I was angry. I'm like, this is unheard. I've been coaching for 10 years. And now because of this, I can't coach. So what I did, I coached from the sideline every practice, every game. Coaches, I'm trying
to picture you now. I'm going with
I like the audacity for him to be over there coaching anyway.
And so I'll tell you how it changes because, during the games, the head coach would turn around, hey, what do you think we should call?
Oh,
and I'm like, do this and do that. And then the parents would dive in. And so news travels, and they embraced it. Coach, what you think? And I'm on the sideline, I'm coaching. Now, whole season, I coach from the sideline. Who would always take championship and lost? I coach from the sideline because my son was watching me, right? And I wanted him to understand that, yeah, man, we might be beat up, man, but we not down. Like, we just will find a way to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that encouraged me. Well, like, my son was an angel to me, more so than he can ever imagine I was to him. And that encouraged me to push.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few times about strength. You also mentioned that throughout your life you grew up with this reinforcement of being strong.
Oh yeah.
And so what we do like to do in this podcast or in these conversations is to talk about the range. So both of y'all, what is something that you could recommend for someone that's not mentally strong yet, but they would like to change their life, especially after coming home or coming back into their community? Like, how can someone strengthen up their minds?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the first thing is you need to find that support.
Yeah.
Right? So not everybody has a family member or a friend, but there's a lot of programs, re-entry programs. If you went into prison and had a substance use issue prior to, you can go to a substance use program. Nonprofits. There's a depending on what city you're in, there may be programs for re-entry. And those programs, their job is to help you get reconnected back into society, right? And a part of that is to help you with identifying that support group that can help you on the way with things too. But you have to have an open mind for sure. You can't block people out,
Right.
because at this point you can't do it by yourself. Nothing we done we get by, right? And I think that sometimes people struggle, especially those coming out of re-entry, because they feel, they may be in this deep depression and anxiety and in this deep hole. They feel like, hey, I need to just shut out everybody, right? But that's not the answer. The answer is to let everybody in.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, that's good. Ed, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I agree. I mean, all of them spot on. It's tough when you don't have support. And then, I worked in prison system for 17 years. The recidivism rate is so high because of the lack of support. They got to come back to the same environment, same neighborhood, same house where they were, with the harmed and abused. So, but I say this, and I don't say it loosely or any place of arrogance, and you got to want it.
yeah,
Right? It's a mindset. You gotta
you can't have the support system working harder for you.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna work out.
what?
Not
It's not gonna work out.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate our younger people today, act so entitled. And how you entitled being you a fella?
Yeah.
You can't be entitled, bro. Like if you gotta dig up a dish today, we will name your
I'm
dish.
just
Be the best dish today because somebody watch it.
Yeah.
And then you gotta have that mindset. And so, but I think that when you have the right mindset, which is a choice, and your attitude, you align yourself with the right people. Right? You put yourself in different company where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And so that is well on. Like you said, it's all spot on.
Thank you so much.
So as we close out, we have your book right here, Audacity. Tell the people where they can find your book at. I know you do speaking engagements. Just give them your whole spiel. Like how they can find you, where they can hit you up at.
Yes, sir.
Hey, hold the book. Hold the book, sir.
Thank you. So Audacity Fueled by Invincible. My website is iamedgoode.com. I have a YouTube channel. You'll find everything, all the publications, videos, places I've spoken, like your company, and and have an opportunity to provide some insight for men and women and kids. Buy the book, and provide a review. Let me know what you think, and let's chat.
Yeah. And what are you looking for? Like, what do you want people to mostly hit you up for? So, like, do you want to do more speaking engagements, or like, do you want to speak more to the youth, adults?
The book is to everyone.
Oh, well.
Right? So it speaks to everyone. It's ageless. It has no age limit. So, right? And if you're open to some real conversation, then we can talk. But I'm willing to. I want to speak. I just want to inspire people. I want to save some lives. God gave me an opportunity to do something different that I've always done, just without the agenda. The arrogance, or the audacity.
So that's
Right? Yeah.
So real quick, we got Sharon, the publisher. Yeah. Sharon, run in the video real quick. Hurry up. So we got Sharon. Real quick, Sharon, let people know who you are. CEO, publishing company. Go ahead. Give me yourself.
My name is Sharon Oliver. We have the pleasure of helping Mr. Ed Goode with with his story Audacity Fueled by Invincible Ignorance, and we're willing to help all authors out there who have a voice to tell their story.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We'll catch y'all in the next episode.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.